G'day and welcome back to my hobby room. And yes, I'm a bit strapped up again. I was going to show you a video of this fantastic exercise bike that I've got and show you how healthy I'm getting, but it appears exercise is very dangerous, and just unloading the box I stretched my torn tendons and hurt my arm again. But that's another story. I'll talk about that later. We're here because Harry is going to talk ship. Yes, Bask? Yeah. Ships. Going to talk about ships. Yeah, it's basically, special Houdini Info Talk. Ships. Right, what's that? Yeah, we could have called it the, creative rendition of all things plastic. Yeah, but, that's too encompassing and it's a bit of a hard one to squeeze out, And enough the frivolities. I'm talking about ships today because one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, what size lines, this is the St. Louis, not finished yet, what size lines do I use on my ship? Is it certain sizes for certain scales? No, it's not. Is it certain size of certain ships? Yes, it is. And I'll explain that. Scale has very little to do with the size of your rigging. Hard to believe, but it's true. There's only one factor in your rigging that has anything to do with scale. It's got nothing to do with the ropes or the pulleys. All right? So I'll tell you what. If you find that interesting and you'd like to know, because I've got a very, very simple way of figuring out every single ship, or model ship, right? You can figure it out for big ships too, but it works better for model ships because it's generalised. There's a very simple way for working out all your rigging line sizes very quickly, and you only need to know one thing about your model. It doesn't matter what scale it is, as long as you know that one thing, you'll know every single rigging line size and every single block size. It's that easy. Does that sound interesting? Hope so. Roll music. Now, a big shout out to the patrons and YouTube members because they really help keep the lights on here, so to speak. They keep me going. So really appreciate it, guys. I don't say it often enough. And if you'd like to see my videos early, advert free and all that sort of stuff, and a bit of background stuff and scuttlebutt about how I break arms, you can join Patreon or YouTube members for as little as $1 a month. Yep. No contracts, just quit any time you like. And they all got to see the live show that ran last weekend. Got to chat about that. But anyhow, we're here because you're interested in ships. Right. Now, this is a tiny one. This is 1/350 scale. And yeah, in 1/350 scale, your rigging will be small. But how small does it go? All right. This is the question. And we can calculate that. But let's look at some other things here. Here's my Bounty, right? Now, Bounty's fully rigged. It's pretty well to scale. It's so cold here, some of the rigging lines have actually drooped. In fact, that was one I made on the Hella jig. So it just goes to show you. I made those rat lines on the Hella jig because I was comparing things, as opposed to those rat lines there I put on with my rat harp, and I did all the rigging. The rat harp ones are all nice and tight still. They're all sitting firm. The ones I made using the Hella jig are bloody hopeless. Just goes to show you how my rat lines tools, they work. In fact, if you bought the plastic ones, right, these are actual 2-scale rat lines that I now sell, they won't droop at all, right? They won't get loose, they just stick them on. They're plastic, they're not going anywhere. Now, the St. Louis, yep. So the St. Louis, you'd think it's a little bit bigger than the Bounty, but it's a totally different scale. Bounty is 1/110 scale. This is, Airfix says, about 1/144. We'll call it a 1/150 scale. So this is only just marginally bigger than the Bounty, and it's a huge ship. This is the problem with scale. Right? If they were the same scale, you get an idea. Here's the thing. Let me show you. This is a Victory. This is the Hella 1/100 scale Victory, and I've reviewed this kit, and it's fantastic. You see how huge it is, okay? Now, if we got the Bounty up, see if I can do this without hurting arms. Ow, the pain I suffer for you guys. So here's the Victory and the Bounty, and I'll put them sort of together. So the Bounty is less than half the size of the Victory. The Bounty is 1/110 and the Victory is 1/100, right? But they're close enough scales for us to do an apples and oranges test. So Bounty is half the size of the Victory, okay? But they're the same scale. So if the theory that some people think that, your rigging lines are to scale, well, that would mean the rigging lines on the Victory are going to be the same as rigging lines on the Bounty. No way at all. There's no way. This is a great big ship. Now, rigging lines change because of the strength that's required to hold the masts up and to make sure that the sails don't fall off the bloody ship. What's happened there? Oh, a bracket's just fallen off. Appropriate little special effect there. See? No digital effects here, no CGI, AI or up your eye. They're basically the same scale, yet the cordage you'll use on them is going to be completely different. There's only one thing that remains the same, but I'll tell you about that shortly, okay? Every block, every line is going to be different between these two kits. Obviously, this is a big ship and that's a little ship, all right? So, is it going to be twice the difference? Let's find out. I'll now reveal my secret formula where you only need to know one thing about your model and everything else is revealed from there. All right, let's talk ship. 1/350 scale, 1/110 scale, 1:144 scale, 1:100 scale. But it doesn't matter because they're all different sizes. You've got little ships and medium-sized ships and larger ships and really big, huge ships. How do you work it all out? All right, let's do the thought exercise first because it's the easiest, the Victory, right? Now, if we look at the Victory's main mast, right at the bottom, where it touches the deck, right? Like with every ship, the main mast. It's the middle one, it's the thickest one. And if we did that, we'd probably find it's about 12 millimeters, okay? Don't quote me on it because different makes make different things. We're doing this because it makes the numbers easy. And I know you guys get all worried about math. There's not a lot of math in this, really. It's quite easy. So we'll assume that the Victory is 12 millimeters at the base of its mast, all right? It's pretty well close to that. I think it's like 11.2 or something. All right. What you do is, and this is the only tricky bit of math, you take the base diameter of your mast, of the main mast, and divide by 6, okay? 6, half a dozen, 6. It's one hand of fingers and another thumb, all right? So in this case, 6 into 12 goes twice, all right? That's it. That's your math. Now what do we do with this number? Okay, well it's very easy. We've got 2. Now 2 will be the great big heavy line, this one here, that goes from the main mast right down to the bottom of the foremast. That's called a forestay, and it's one of your biggest and thickest ropes, apart from the only thing that probably could be larger are the ropes that hold on the anchors, right? The anchor ropes, or chains or whatever. But the largest rigging rope, especially the fixed rigging, is the forward stay here that holds from the fighting platform, the main mast, right down to the base of the foremast. And it takes a lot of weight, right? It has to hold that whole thing in place, okay? And that is in conjunction with the shrouds, okay? So the shrouds are part of the rigging that go down. And these are some of your biggest ropes on the ship. So we know if the mast was 12 millimeters in diameter, we take 1/6 that, which is 2 millimeters, right? You got it? 2, got it? Got it? That will be 2. Now, everything from now on is half. It's as easy as that. So my shrouds are half my forestay here on the main mast. All right? So that is 2. My shrouds will be 1 millimeter. Not on this particular ship because it's a lot smaller. I'm talking about the Victory. This ship, everything's half that. Okay? But on the Victory, right, its mast was 12 millimeters, right? That one's only about 6. So literally this is half. So therefore, its forward stay is 2 millimeters in diameter, and all of its shrouds are 1 millimeter in diameter. Okay? Now we go to the little fella here, the Bounty. All right? See if I can do this. We'll try and get in here through all that rigging. We'll try and measure. Okay? And when we measure it, we get 4 millimeters. All right? So it's less than half. It's actually about a third, isn't it? Because we had 12 millimeter on the Victory. We've only got 4 millimeter diameter for the mainmast. So that means we divide it by 6, it's going to be less than a millimeter for our forward stay, okay? But what we do in rigging for ships like this, we can make it easy. Rather than trying to work in weird fractions, we would just call that 1 millimeter and be done with it. It's a lot easier to find a 1 millimeter line and run it. So we'll do that, okay? We'll say from a 4 millimeter mast, we'll go down to 1 millimeter and we'll call that our mainstay. And it'll look fine. And that makes all the other calculations really easy. Our shrouds then are half that. They're half a millimeter. All right. So again, that will be half what the Victory. Victory, we're going to have 1 to half. Okay. So, well, the lines we'll run will be half. But actually, if you wanted to be exact, you'd go even less. We're not going to do that. We're just going to approximate it as close as possible. So now the next thing is, what are the rat lines that go horizontally? They're half again. So if my forestay here on the bounty, right, I've gone from 4 to 1, I'll call that a 1, right? And then my shroud is a half, so I halved it. Then I halve it again to a quarter, 0.25 millimetre, or you could use 0.3. Those would be the lines for your rat lines. It's as easy as that. So we've got the basics, okay? We know this forestay, it's going to be on the victory will be 2, but on the bounty it'll be 1. We know the shrouds on the victory will be 1, but on the bounty there'll be a half. And then we get down to the horizontal rat lines, right? On the victory there'll be a half, but on the bounty there'll be 0.25 or 0.3. These are all millimetres, by the way, but you know, you can work in inches if you want to, but millimetres. I'm going to do it all in millimetres. Now, there's little lines here that run between those dead eyes. So assuming you're going to use dead eyes, right? There's little lines that run between the dead eyes. They will be half again. So it's just half, 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 half. So if we're going, say, on the victory, because that's easier, we had a 6mm mast that goes down to a 2mm forestay, that goes into a 1mm shroud, that goes down to a 0.5 millimetre rat line and a 0.5 millimetre channel line. Now, how big are our dead eyes? It's really easy. Any block or dead eye is 10 times the size of the line. So, if there are 0.5 millimetre lines in there, on the victory, our dead eyes will be, what's a half times 10, guys? 5! Yeah, you might have to take your shoes and socks off for that one, hey? But there you go, easy as that. So, now I've got everything worked out, and all I needed to know was that width there, that diameter, okay? Now after that, everything else pretty well is the same. The shroud line is pretty well the same as the backstays. If your ship is big enough, you can go to 2/3 the size. But most of the time, for the kind of ships we'll do, whatever the shroud line width is, you'd put your little backstays. So there's not any backstays on that one. I think we go to the... we go here, we can see backstays, okay? So backstays run from the mast down. So there's little backstays in there, right? Not the white ones, the black ones. There's a big backstay. All right, so there's some backstays there. Okay, so forward stays go forward, backstays go back. So the backstays here are the same as the shroud line, especially when you've got a smaller bottle, because you're not going to muck around trying to do 2/3 of it. It's too hard. Now, when you go up into the rigging above that, you use the 2/3 rule, if you can. If it's a big ship like the Victory, yeah, you'd start using 2/3. So basically your dead eyes will be 2/3 the size of the ones down there, and your shrouds will be 2/3 the size, and so on and so on and so on. But if it's a ship like this, where things are just so bloody small anyway, sure, you'd probably go with smaller dead eyes, so we can work it out. Say you had, let's do Victory again, say we had 6mm dead eyes, right? 2/3 of that, right, do your math, 2/3 divided by 3, multiplied by 2, all right? You're going to end up with 4mm dead eyes, right? Or halve it. On this, you'd probably run 3mm dead eyes here. Okay, so that means 2/3 of 3 is 2. You'd run 2mm dead eyes there. So that's 2/3. Now, you could reduce the lines and go really thin, but it's too hard on smaller scales and smaller ships, right? So again, probably more smaller ships than smaller scales. So you wouldn't worry about it. For instance, when we do something like this, all right? Now, if I measure the masts here, they're only about 2.5mm. We'll call it 2.4mm diameter masts on this, right? So if we divide that by 6, all right? 4 6s are 24, okay? So your forward stay will be 0.4. So 0.4, or you'd round it up to 0.5. 0.5mm forestays, okay? So they're all forestays. Everything's like that. Everything running forwards forestays. Yes, if you're a purist, they will be different for each mast. I mean, you can go to that extent. The mizzen mast has a narrower set of cordage than the main mast, and the foremast as well. And you can do that. And in fact, if it's a big enough ship, what you'll run on the main mast will be twice as wide as what you'll run on the mizzen mast, if the scale is big enough. If the scale isn't big enough, you just stick with the same thing all the way through. You might just reduce the size of the dead eyes on the mizzen, right? You have to make a sort of subjective leap and go, what can I see? What's doable? How bloody far down the rabbit hole do I want to go? So anyhow, 0.5mm is correct then for those forward stays, right? And if we halve that, that'll be 0.25 will be shrouds. So here's my tiny little 0.25 shrouds. And I cheated. I got photo etch ones. because who is going to spend all day rigging all those tiny little lines? It's too bloody hard. It's much too hard. So let's see how easy it's going to be to work out the St. Louis, right? 144 scale or 150 scale St. Louis. Now, its main mast down here, right, the base of it, it's about 7, but let's call it 6. It's much easier to calculate, and it'll all come out in the wash anyway, the scale. So we'll say it's 6. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. Oh, that's easy. My forestay is going to be 1. Okay, easy as that. Halve that. My shrouds are going to be 0.5 millimetre. Okay, which they are. Really easy. And then my channels are going to be half again, 0.25. I use 0.3 because I have that cordage lying around. So at 0.25, multiply that by 10, they would be 2.5, right? Nah, well, they would have been too small to work with. And then how can I go smaller up here? Whereas 2.5 is about the smallest you can get in wooden dead ice. I wouldn't be able to do it. So I made an executive decision and I measured how big this was, how much space, and I went with 4 millimetre ones. Ideally, I probably should have done 3.5, but I went with 4s, and over here I went with 4.5s, okay? And that's what I did. Probably could have done with 3.5s, it would have been easier, and then I would have gone down to 2.5s over here, okay? And then worked out on my lines. Now, there's lots more lines on here. There's all the running rigging. Generally, you would do your running rigging pretty well the same. Whatever the size of the shroud is, for your major running rigging down here, you'd use the same size. That's not correct for a real ship, but for a model that will work. And then as you go up, you go to 2/3 that size for the running lines you do here, and then down to half the size at the top there, right? So on the Bounty, I have sort of done that. On the Bounty, I've used fairly thick lines here, and then they have got thinner as they go up, and then basically up here, they're very thin. So, you know, I've probably gone from, I think they were 1 millimetres to 0.5s to 0.3s. And that's it. At the end of the day, it is how good does it look. No one's going to get a micrometer out and measure your model, right? Really, if they are, they're total wankers. Piss them off. So it's a very simple formula, and it's very easy to remember. Divide the main mast base diameter by 6. That'll give you forward stays, okay? Divide that by half. That will give you shrouds. Divide that by half, that will give you horizontal rat lines and give you channels. And then you've got some rigging sizes. So you've literally got small, medium, large, and you just use that throughout your whole build. And it'll work. It'll look fine. Easy as that. And when you go to the mizzen at the back, yeah, the mizzen will be slightly thinner forestay, slightly thinner shrouds. Sometimes I don't even bother, I just run the same. It depends how I'm feeling, time of the day. So there you go. I hope that wasn't too confusing for you. There was some maths, I know. Some people's eyes will roll over and they'll foam at the mouth. It really isn't that hard. I mean, the only number you've got to really divide by it's tricky is 6. Get your calculator out. Figure it out. 6. You know, it's not that hard. Half a dozen, all right? After that, it's just half, multiply by 10, all right? You take your shoes and socks off, you'll be able to go to 20. Yep. Anyhow, look, I hope that has made sense and that answers the question that a lot of you ask, because really, rigging line size isn't that hard. And anyway, we generalise and we average out on scale models. So, you know, we're only going to work in dead eyes of 0.5 millimetre difference, you know, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, maybe 7 on a big wooden kit. So there's not a lot there. You just get the nearest one to it that's easy to work with. I mean, on here I've got 4.5s for the main, 4 for the fore. I'm going to run 3 for the mizzen, and then as I go up, I'm going to run 3.5s and 2.5s. Right, easy as that. I had to put that little bugger down. It was arms starting to hurt. I really, you know, the pain I go through for these videos for you, really. Anyhow, buttons, lick. Circumscribe, you know, whatever, and what's this one over here? Share. I don't know. There's buttons there, okay? Just click them. Things happen. You know, the algorithm gets really excited when you do that. I appreciate it. And of course, if you really want to help me out, there's Patreon and all that. And look, what you can do, buy me a curry. Yep, I get that money straight away, and then I can feed myself and Bass the cat. Yes, Bass, you'll get fed fish. Goodness me. All right, well, look, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you've got any questions, by all means, sling me a line. I will have a link in the description, which will give you a very basic sheet that explains those breakdowns, all right? I can give you a more complex sheet, and you can go into really all the details of how your rigging line sizes will be. I've got an entire spreadsheet for that, but it's too complex for most people. You only need to know sort of basics, so you run about 3 or 4 different widths of lines, different colours. Away you go. Easy as that, okay? And, 3 or 4 types of dead eyes and blocks. That makes life interestingly enough. Or just use the ones in the bloody kit. Yes, you lazy bastards. Okay, well, there you go. And remember, there's all my tools available as well. There'll be a link at the end of this. So that's it. It's a goodbye from Australia. I'll go back to bed and take some painkillers. Anyhow, hooroo from Harry Houdini. This basket. Oh, it was ships. Definitely was ships. But don't do a ship there. Don't you dare touch that ship. I'm going to have to clean this up.